Another might probably be quick, but another follow-up video. Still day 123. So got an email back from the recruiter. Looks like they wanted to do a phone interview with me, which is pretty cool. We'll see how that goes. I'm gonna make my availability for next week as opposed to tomorrow, because I'd like to use the weekend to potentially review some stuff and um, kind of jog my memory on some material, because there's sort of the stuff that I did at the last job, which is probably what they're mostly going to be focused in on. And I'm sure they're probably going to ask, some theoretical questions or so here or there, just to sort of see if I understand the processes. And I'd at least like to be able to sort of go, okay, this is this, that is that, and some of the stuff. I'm not going to be like the world's greatest expert. I kind of like I didn't do my undergrad degree in microbiome, or have an actual specialization in biotechnology. Most of the bio or biotech related classes, or like biochemical classes, were far more related to like large scale operations. So we're talking like huge chemical reactors where they're like growing cultures of a given cell or bacteria that produces a given compound, or so, like an Abe reactor where the Clostridium acetobutylicum bacterial cells produce acetone, butanol, and ethanol, let's say. And then out of that would be like their waste product from a cellular perspective, and that flows out of the reactor and goes through like a separation process, unit or workflow, and then out of that you get your separated out compounds. That'd be like an example of kind of like what we studied. So some of the stuff, like, I didn't necessarily have that kind of exposure to except at work, and then I end up like watching some videos or reading some sort of short snippets, or like they had some like PowerPoints or things of that nature that would kind of give you sort of a snapshot of the theory behind it, the science behind it. But I like to do a little more of an in-depth sort of study up on it over the weekend, and hopefully then have the phone interview, Zoom interview, and they talk to me, and then okay, if I answer their questions to their satisfaction, that sort of thing, maybe I have an offer there. Which still kind of feels a bit weird and almost like, I don't know, bad in some sense, because I've only recently like started to really sort of build something of a relationship with, or a connection with the folks at my work. I mean, today, for instance, I was doing this like large build with one of my coworkers, and I mean, I ain't doing nothing with her, but if she was just some girl like I saw on the street, I'd be like, dang, that girl's cute, what I'm saying? She seems to have sort of the more to the background, family background and such, where her parents are still together, and she apparently, I guess, lives with them, and solid connection to her family, that sort of deal. Which I know it's not a guarantee, of anything. Female nature being female nature. I mean, like, if they see a good enough opportunity come along, and it, in order to get that opportunity or exercise that, that would, require them to do things that would be untowards, their family or their culture, their religion, they might not do that, depending upon sort of the risk versus reward sort of, balance, if you will. But they're capable of, I guess you could say, surprising you in ways that you didn't expect, for better or for worse. So, but yeah, if she wasn't like a coworker and she was just some girl I was interested in, like, yeah, she's even, it's kind of odd saying this, but she's even like better looking, even in sort of like, from like an idealistic perspective, she's even better looking than the girl I had quote unquote one-itis for in college, which is like, it's interesting to say that, you know. I think a lot of the thing with the one-itis girls I've referred to her, was I was blinded by a certain idealism. I wanted to find that cute hijabi girl who was also an engineer, and this and that and this and that, and maybe she checked off some of those boxes, but it was like the ones that would be like real deal breakers that would make all the other stuff um just worth nothing. Wouldn't make them, wouldn't have them making a difference. Like those are the boxes that she could not check off, and that she'd already like erased out basically because of stuff she'd either already done or had decided or decided to do. um and just kind of coming to terms with that, yeah, that took me a while, but yeah, I mean, I got to work on this bill with this girl, this coworker of mine, and cracking jokes, talking about this and that, and it's kind of funny that we ended up having that kind of conversation because earlier in the day, um, we had this other coworker who seems almost um, like she's like she's trying to play the role of matchmaker or something like that at work, which is kind of I mean, I kind of laugh it off and sort of shrug my shoulders. So because it's one of those things where like um, the dynamics are such that it's like basically me as the guy. It's almost like I don't have any say in it. The girl decides that she wants to break all the rules for you because she thinks you're, I guess, for the lack of a better way of putting it, alpha, so to speak. I mean, she has that genuine desire for you. It's like, okay, well, it's gonna be on her terms and her rules and that sort of thing. But that's the case where it happened, and it's like, okay, this other coworker, I remember when I started working there, it was this whole question of like, oh, um, who's single, and oh, by the way, this girl is single, and oh, but this girl over here is taken, and the girl is taken. She kind of chuckles a bit because she's married, and it's like, oh, haha, whatever. But um, and then the girl who's single is apparently this girl, and it's like this whole sort of thing where I feel like that coworker is trying to like almost like push me in that direction, push this girl in that direction, sort of thing. Um, and of course, talks of inheritance came up, and I kind of jokingly said that I had an inheritance, but I'd have to get dual citizenship to have it, and um, maybe that's kind of what led into. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's kind of all sort of a ha, funny joke, so to speak. It was because I've made it like one of my rules, quote unquote, being again, a lot of stuff is like for lack of a better word, but for lack of a better way of putting it, a quote unquote red pillow, where I made it sort of one of my rules that there's no romance in the workplace. You don't go to work looking for a girlfriend or a wife or a lay or whatever you want to call it. Whether you're a waiting till marriage type guy or you're just you don't care. You'll take what opportunity you can get. Like you don't go to work for that. And I think this is something that does cut across like economic lines. Like even if you're a multimillionaire or multi-billionaire, like that stuff can wreck you. I think if you're wealthy enough, you can probably contend with far better than your average man with like sort of the fallout from it. But at the same time, it's just kind of like, why do that? Why do that kind of stuff that could get in the way of just living your life? But um so yeah, it's just one of my rules. I wouldn't, even if she was like, I mean, even if she was like doing stuff physically that was just like, okay, like she would clearly be interested in that sort of stuff, and you know not only wouldn't stop me, but would encourage me to go and pursue that kind of a thing with her. um I'd be making it a really strong point that no, I ain't doing that. um I just morals aside, it's a matter of like pragmatism, and in some cases survival. You just don't do that sort of stuff as a guy. um But yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff that happened today. Like I said, I got that email back from the other place. We'll see where it goes. At the very least, like I said, I would like to get a sort of perception of, what they'd be expecting, and then, um, if that is sort of the path I would really want to take forward, to get into an eventual process engineer slash automation engineer position. Because either way, even if I go the R&D process engineer route, I will have in all likelihood to learn at least some automation, just to understand it. It might not be my bread and butter and my meat and potatoes, but or my peanut butter and jelly, but I will have to, learn that stuff to a certain, level, um, at least, like a intermediate level, let's say. So I will still be pursuing knowledge in that, but then, like design of experiments, statistical software, programming, stuff like Python and R and that sort of deal. Like they've apparently said with this position, they do teach you Python and teach you R and teach you how to use something called Jump, which is a statistical software package. I've been exposed to it. I've used it a bit, but they apparently will teach that sort of stuff. So it's not something I have to be experienced in on coming on board. They're more concerned about like molecular biology techniques, so pipetting and transformation and next generation sequencing and mini prep and PCR, all that kind of stuff. So as long as they understand enough the theory behind it, and I can express that during the phone interview, I probably should have something. Um, and I'm not closed off to in the future if I did, gain the kind of experience that I would need, um, but at this other job, to come back to the job I'm at right now and be like doing in clinical research, because um, that's what's kind of like my thing with a lot of these companies. I see what they're doing. It's really cool. It's really like, world changing or whatever, thing you want to call it in a positive sense, purposeful. Um, but it's sort of like, you see that and you're like, okay, can I get involved with this or that? It's like, oh, well, you don't have the 3 years experience. You don't have your master's. You don't have this certification or this. So on. It's like, so you kind of get stuck downstream doing all the manufacturing, which is cool and all. You get to make money. You're involved. You are doing something, but um, not at that level, where it would be really like, oh, here's what I did. I developed this novel treatment for some, disease, or I, um, solved some sustainability problem by figuring out how to, engineer these cells to produce a certain compound that can blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Like you don't get to be doing that sort of high level design R&D sort of stuff, or even automation, like fixing machines or programming them so that you can scale up manufacturing. um, you don't get to do that sort of stuff. You're just there pushing the button, pulling the lever, and it's not like you're Gordon Freeman from Half-Life, where okay, at least you have a PhD and you work at this top secret facility and you get to fight the aliens when they show up and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, you literally are just there pulling a lever and pushing a button and flipping a switch and that sort of thing. Um, so that's pretty much all that's happened today. I did stay a few hours extra, about 3 hours. So I got some overtime. Probably gonna do that same thing tomorrow, and trying to like just increase the size of my paycheck enough so I can make enough of a dent in the things I need to pay off. Really want to speed that up. And like I said, this whole getting out of debt thing, a lot of it really isn't about, oh, I just want to be able to run around here and there, and yeah, I want to go and have vacations and travel and do this and that. But a lot of it is just about being able to live life to the fullest, get the most out of it. Maybe, like I said, go back and see if I can re-pursue some quote unquote lost dreams, if you will. But as well, like I want to solve certain problems in my family. Um, and whether it's helping my folks pay off their debts, getting my mom and dad set up for retirement, helping on my sister with her stuff, maybe even helping her get her education back on track, her life, back on track, that sort of thing, in ways that are not going to be, detrimental to myself or subvert myself or my life, but, end up taking not only myself, but them to the next level. And obviously, I got to be careful with that because human nature is human nature. You don't want to be just, going all the full 9 yards and just, wearing yourself out or being taken advantage of or whatever, which, look, I'm not bringing that taking advantage of part up to imply that, like, my folks are just, bad people or so, but it's sort of like human nature. It's almost like the reason why it's almost like we're geared, you know, in a sort of biological sense towards overconsumption of food, because if you look at most of our history as a species, it was like, very, very long stretches of lean time, uh, and, sort of punctuated by moments of bountiful, food and drink and so on, whether it was during agricultural civilization or way back in prehistory. It was very much this sort of like you didn't know where your next meal is going to come from, whether it was you needed to hunt the woolly mammoth or you had to make sure the next year's crop came in and, blight didn't hit it, or, you know, whatever, some natural disaster or other humans, came along and destroyed it. That's, you had to sort of get it while you could get it, even in terms of just food. We're not talking about sex. We're talking about even just food and drink, So it's sort of like when people are in desperate situations, they're very much prone to doing things they would not do otherwise. And, oh, we'll deal with the consequences later, even if it means hurting somebody else, even if it means hurting someone in their family, that sort of thing. And so I have to be careful of that. I also have to be careful that I don't get myself into a desperate situation, because I do not want to be going back to that sort of thing and end up doing that to my family. So, anyways, that's where I'm at right now. It's kind of a chill, seems like a pretty chill evening. I got some stuff coming up next week, but right now, what I want to do is grab some food, get some coffee, get studying, and get some reading done, and maybe even do some sort of non-academic, non-work related reading. This is sort of chill out. I may spend some time sort of unwinding, excuse me, but that's what I got at least planned for tonight. I'll get as much of it done as I can, then go into the weekend, finish up tomorrow, that sort of deal, and hopefully get a nice fat paycheck next week, and I can really do some stuff with it. So anyways, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and thanks for the support. Yeah, I really appreciate it. So yeah, see you folks around next video. Yeah, bye.